What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the pit. We are live. We're live with 5. Today we've got Gunny on my right. We've got Jedi Blockmates on the left. We've got Z top left, and we've got Satoastshi. What's going on, everybody?
Yo.
Popping. Good morning. Good morning.
The market is hanging on to some lows. We got Binance, DOJ tickling yesterday. That was kind of like the big not black swan that everyone was waiting on. It dropped. We got a little dip. We're currently trading above it. That feels like a bull market dip. One of those like tether FUD, sell everything, and then it just continues higher. High time frame, looks very mediocre right now. It doesn't look like it wants to do much for August, but we're still here. We're excited, and I hope, for personal reasons, that we have some great ideas today for some altcoins, because that's kind of what I want to be picking up right now. There's a lot of DEX and on-chain stuff that's just flying right now. At the very least, extremely volatile and fun. What are you guys seeing?
I'm bullish, bro. I think it's kind of like people are still holding on to their bear market, I think, biases. Like whenever we get a pullback on majors, people are like, "Oh, we're going super deep." Like I saw somebody for 20K, like people are calling for 25K, but we haven't even printed really even close to a lower low yet. Like we're just retesting a higher low on the weekly from my point of view on majors. And then you still have on-chain stuff, which is popping off nonstop. So I think like there's two groups of people. There's the people who are like day trading Bitcoin and ETH, and their biases are flipping a ton. And then you have the people who are just holding whatever their spot portfolio is and then are on-chain and just degenning with the rest of it, like a smaller portion of their portfolio. And those people are a lot less bearish, in my opinion.
Well, because that's where the volatility is right now. And every day I look, there's like multi-100% on some shitcoin with 800K liquidity or less. There's fun to be had out there, guys. Now, the one thing I think maybe, I don't know how many macro bros we have in here, but we're looking at the Dixie, looking at the NDQ. Like there's some talk. Maybe Gunny can speak to this. Like what went down with this downgrade, the credit downgrade? Does that put a halt on this year's rally for the majors, the TradFis? How big a deal is that?
Is Gunny with us? I think he might have lost connection.
He's got a ghost in his background. Just
I think
check your VPN too, Gunny. I know sometimes you come in with the VPN and it flickers you in and out. VPN's bad for live stream.
No, you don't want to be using a VPN for live stream. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Not ideal, honey. There he is. So yeah, I don't know if your VPN just went off, Gunny, but we were asking about the downgrade, the credit rating downgrade from AAA to AA plus on the U.S. debt, like or credit. Like, how big a deal is that? Is that the kind of thing that can put us halt to a market's rally, like for the year?
Went burr for so long, and once it stopped, rates go up.
Unless there's anything else that you
What do you do?
Yeah, it's the first time I've looked at the NDQ and the ES for a while and thought to myself, maybe this is kind of coming into a level. Like, I mean, it is coming to some levels. Maybe it's cooked for a little bit, and then you see the credit rating stuff, and you're like, okay, that's a catalyst. I could see cooling it at least through August, September, because those are typically shitty months anyways. It's funny how that aligned. It's the first time we've traded below my bull market EMAs, 2612 EMAs. First time we've traded below that really since like April. So I'm just curious your guys' thoughts. Like, first of all, does it matter regarding crypto majors, whatever? And second of all, like, is it just one of those things where it like M's out and then just goes higher anyways? Because the stock market does that to TA guys all the time. So I don't trade it.
I'd love to hear what the toast has to say about this.
Well, all right, Jedi, you asked for it. No, I have a very negative outlook on the rest of the year. Maybe that's because I watched Big Short last night, but
Great movie.
yeah, I guess really through the lens of the housing market, I've been looking at macroeconomic stuff as a macro bro, part-time armchair macro bro. It just doesn't seem great, like, because we're at this point, right, where everyone's starting to look at all the macro bros of the last year and say, like, well, you were wrong. The housing market didn't crash. We're not in a recession. Stock market's rallying. So you're stupid. And right when, usually, isn't it that, like, right when those people look foolish and start to capitulate is when we actually see that turn, right?
Mhm.
And so the housing market and the commercial real estate market looks, there's some concerning things about it. We won't, I mean, don't necessarily need to go into all that, but there's some concerning things about it. And I think, like, with the lag effects of all this aggressive, very fast tightening coming in through the form of adjustable rate mortgages getting updated and mortgages expiring and needing to refinance, you're seeing that in all forms of credit markets, not just the housing market. And I think that is going to have a negative impact on wages. I think it's going to have a negative impact on growth. I think the reckoning macro bros have been calling for is still coming. I haven't lost faith. So I'm playing very defensive. I'm not ready to throw the bags in, but I have bags. I'm ready to deploy them. I'm just not yet.
All right. Well, Z's bullish. You've got a bearish take. We've got some bearish structure on the majors. I'm going to put in a little bull cope here. We've gapped down, first off, for the second time now in a row this week. So we opened the week with the gap down after the credit rating. We just gapped down again about 45 minutes ago on the SPX. And in that time, we had the DOJ news, which was kind of lingering for a while. The funny thing is, when it finally dropped, it was actually just news from like last December, which was the news where the DOJ is considering charging Binance. So it was actually recycled news. Bitcoin didn't gap down today. Bitcoin didn't really move at all today. So I wonder how much of a signal that is to us that maybe they're just on different paths. Obviously, they haven't moved up together. Are they going to move down together? I don't know.
I would love to clarify, like, I've been chopped up here at these lows. And I actually am constructive on BTC simply because this looks like a failed breakdown. Like, the breakdown has not been very aggressive. Yeah. And even with this like crazy bearish news, like, didn't really go that far. Didn't even revisit or sweep those lows yet. That's constructive to me. So, like, locally, it's not like I'm doom and gloom. I'm just talking about like a 6 to 8 month time frame moreover. So it might be a difference of time frames here.
Okay. So Z, when you look at the market right now, you're bullish, you're looking for upside. Are you looking for it in the majors, or are you playing mostly in the shitcoin space, the altcoin space, obviously Solana?
Yeah, not really looking for it in the majors. I mean, like, I think holding majors makes sense, like having a core position of your portfolio in Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Coinbase stock, if you like Coinbase. I think holding that for like long term makes sense, but I don't think it's something that most people should be just actively trading, because you're going to make a lot more money looking for what mid-cap alts are popping off, like what on-chain stuff is popping off. Like, that's where a lot of the volatility is right now. I mean, obviously, if you're a great day trader, then you don't really care what any of that stuff is doing. But most people just are not that, especially people who aren't full-time traders. So that's why I say I think it makes more sense to look for what narratives are popping off and what else is happening in the space. But I'm still constructive on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like, I'm still bullish. I think that, like, they're probably going to put another higher low somewhere in here. I really don't think we're going to get back to 25K. Just because of how much FUD it took us to get down there, and the market just absorbed all of it. But I think like 27s, like 28, I wouldn't be even bearish if we were to test down there. I really just think it's going to chop around until we get some confirmation that, like, they won, like one of these spot ETFs is winning, like one of their cases. Then I think that's probably when you get the catalyst for a move up. But I really think majors just going to chop around, and then like the space in general will be active in other areas.
There was an article yesterday, Bloomberg, about I don't know if you guys saw that.
A little quiet, Gunny.
Oh, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, better now.
Say it with your chest, Gunny.
gotta work on this. So I think I forget who it was, but somebody put an article out that they were pricing the odds of an ETF happening from like a coin flip from like 50-50 went up to like 65% or something like that.
Yep. This year.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
Yeah.
Bloomberg.
Yeah. I also think Solana's in a really good spot, honestly. I think like this pullback on the weekly, if you're looking at the weekly time frame, it's kind of retesting weekly support. And it already cleared all of the highs above this range of like the past 9 months. I think it's going to print another higher high in like the next few months, this quarter probably. So I think Solana looks really good here.
I do know a very sizable fund that actually sold a lot of the Solana around breakpoint in November, whenever that was that November 2022, infamously. And they have been a buyer. Like they've been buying back.
They're back in.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who are new to the stream, the weekly W's are probably the strongest signals to look for investable levels on coins, on names. And the two that Z mentioned today that stand out for me are Solana, big fat weekly W confirmed back during that big rally, which definitely had some short squeezing in it. But it closed and it confirmed. So any kind of dips after that, to me, are DCA, get long, get in, not tight leverage. Obviously, if you've been tight leverage trying to trade Solana, which I did once or twice, you've just been getting rinsed. Even overnight, Bitcoin didn't lose its local low. Solana did. But it's this kind of like weekly time frame that personally I'm looking at. And then you look at coin. I mean, there's not too many charts as beautiful as something like coin, putting in this huge weekly structure, breaking out of it. So I actually just hit up my wealth manager this morning. I was like, bro, can we get some bids in at like 84, 83? Because if it comes in and retests that, I was in Chicago last weekend talking to this about this, Gunny. And he's like, yeah, can you let me know when you see coin come in? And I think it's like 84, 83. I don't mind if it goes to 65 after that, whatever. I love 80, the low 80s on coin for the next 2 years, whatever, plus. Really nice looking weekly W's coming in. And so this is that quiet time in the market where we're loud and we're seeing all the noise and the bass and all the bald and the bullshit, but like it's still a quiet market. Socials, your friends, your family, nobody's talking about crypto. Nobody gives a shit about this. So this is really like the year to be looking for these kinds of high time frame bottom structures and then just building positions. I love it.
Does coin pay a dividend?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
You get paid a dividend in Pepe emission.
I would take that, bro. I would take that.
Yeah.
I would take that.
XRP, Pepe.
Legit, bro. Some meme exposure.
I think you could simplify like all outlooks, local and more longer term, like 8-9 months, down to like a tale of two bear markets. We have the 2015, 2016 bear market. We have the 2018, 2019 bear market. Very different stories. In 2015, you had a depression trough that lasted almost a full year. It was very long. And then we went up 200%. We stayed there, and then the rally began. Whereas in 2018, 2019, we got a very short depression trough that was much shorter by comparison, lasted from November of 18 until March of 19. So about 5 months. And then we rallied more than 200%, very aggressively. And then we got another low. And so it's like, do you believe that we're going to not get our prolonged depression trough and just stay, but we're still going to stay elevated? Or do you believe that future pain is coming before the halving? I don't think anyone's here to say that after the halving, it's anything but risk on, especially the way that like the liquidity and business cycle is lining up with that. It seems like, over the next 12 months, we should see all disastrous effects of, the aggressive tightening play out. And then, something should break. And then we should see, the restart of the liquidity cycle. It's just about sort of what do you believe happens between now and then? And for me, like, I just don't believe that the time we spent at 15, 16 is it. I'm not calling for new lows or even revisiting those lows, but I just think better buying opportunities lie ahead.
You're thinking about the bet you made with EMG in the pit.
Dude, and so it's interesting thing about that bet is that I now kind of more and more inclined to believe that we go from like 40 to 22 than from like 35 to, whatever. Or, you know
For
what
clarity,
I mean?
I think, could you just highlight the bet for anyone who's not?
The bet
aware
is
of
that between now and the halving, we will see a negative 40% 24-hour period on Bitcoin. And the winner, and that's my bet. I'm betting that will happen. The winner gets to choose the username and PFP of the loser in the pit until Bitcoin reaches all-time highs.
All right.
Dang.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned liquidity cycles because I was having this conversation. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This is a chart from TechDev52 on Twitter. If you guys want to give him a follow, I probably haven't yet. I should. I just looked at the chart, but there he is. So the idea that maybe it's less to do with these halving events and more to do with liquidity cycles. They seem to align almost better because if it was just the halving, then it's a known event with a very predictable mathematical shift in supply demand, which should be priced in advance. And it never is. It's always after the fact. So it kind of stands to reason that it's probably more to do with another force at work. And if you look here, you can see it aligns really well with shifts in global liquidity. So
that is interesting.
In that sense, we're coming into an up move, which is very exciting. So I don't want to call much about this market. I don't feel comfortable anymore calling things. It's like all I want to do is build positions in things that I think will be around in the next few years. Solana being a big one. One that came up recently on my radar was Helium.
Yep, I like Helium. I was looking at Helium the other day.
Yeah, and they just launched on Coinbase. They got delisted from Binance, right? They used to run on their own chain. They were struggling to do that. They just shifted over to Solana chain. They've got hardware in stores, park one of their things on your roof, get paid, and it's like a mesh cell network that'll give more affordable data and talk. So it's got some really cool fundamental stories with it, and the chart looks fantastic.
If you live, by the way, if you live in a very rural area, the more rural of an area you live, the better your Helium hardware is going to do.
Like payment-wise.
Payment-wise. Yeah. Because it's kind of what it needs. Like if you look at a map of it, you go like near Chicago as an example, it's like.
Is that for saturation reasons?
Yes.
Okay.
Like
because I look at it.
If you live in the middle of fucking nowhere, like doesn't matter where you are, like in the world, just like middle of nowhere, get it. You should be getting a. It's like this kind of Raspberry Pi looking device.
Yeah, and apparently they have new devices coming out that are going to be 10, 15 times cheaper. So it'll be more affordable, and they're launching those soon. So I got a little bag the other day on Coinbase. I've been starting to build a position in this one. It's not very liquid, so I don't want to get too big and then be stuck. But I certainly feel good about like selling half on a double at some point. The first major resistance, really, even from this little rally here, is like.
Pretty far away, yeah.
It's far away, but it's like you can get a free position on this thing, and all it has to do is hit its first kind of like weekly resistance, really.
Let me ask you guys a couple questions on this, because there is like this very definitive line between like the macro picture and then just like kind of individual names that have their own idiosyncratic risks attached to them. Like, it's something like Helium. Do you think it picks up market beta? So like if the market just starts rallying, like Helium just starts going with it. Like if we're saying like, hey, when the liquidity cycle turns and suddenly, you get like, you start easing, or we go on hold interest rate, global interest rate wise or US interest rate wise. Obviously it has effects on Bitcoin and like all the majors where it almost feels like an index where it's just like, it just is going to go up. But then you get into this like second level of coins that could, just kind of have a mind of their own. And like, I'm not even saying like absolute shit coins. I'm just saying like things that actually have product and use case. Like what's your thought on something like Helium? Where does the line in the sand that like you can't, like if you're buying certain things, obviously like a meme coin, you're not going to be like relying on the macro picture to have that rally. But
Right.
You know,
I-
what are your guys' thoughts on that?
The way I think about it is, I think that the things that are most correlated to macro are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Honestly, I think like those are the most heavily correlated. But altcoins, I think, can outperform even when the general market is down in some cases. And the reason for that is there's so much money in crypto that's not leaving the space. Like I know traders, like with a decent amount of capital in crypto, who are just, they know that's the only market that they're going to trade. And because of that, there's so many people, like when a narrative really pops off hard, these people are not looking at rates or like the job numbers or any of that. When they're finding altcoins that they think are undervalued, especially when they're not like huge market caps. So like when they're in like the middle market cap range. So that's why I think you'll see stuff outperform. And you kind of like recently, I think we kind of saw it with Maker. Like Maker has had a pretty good narrative recently because they own so much U.S. Treasury bonds and rates are high, so they're printing and then they're using that money to buy back and add liquidity.
That's actually directly correlated to rates.
Yeah, so that's like I know. It's like a opposite macro way. Then like if you look at stuff like Atom last summer, which kind of outperformed Bitcoin and ETH on the way up in mid 2022, because people were expecting the Atom 2.0 paper to drop, and it wasn't like fully disclosed what everything that was going to be in it. And you kind of saw stocks keep going down, but Atom, that on that, like you can see it on the left side, just kept ripping up.
Yeah.
See,
Well, this would be mid 2022.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Was what do you use as like your base? Is your goal like, if you're OG, like oftentimes you're trying to like turn everything back to like how many Bitcoin can I accumulate, or how many ETH, or how many SOL? Like, do you just look at it as dollars, or do you look at it as you trade everything against Bitcoin, ETH, or SOL?
I mean, so I think in bull markets, you want to have a benchmark of which asset you think is going to be like the top performer for majors. Currently, I think it's Solana right now. So like if I'm not outperforming SOL, that's like my core is SOL really. But generally for me, it's cash. It's like once the market flips, I'm not like, I still want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible when I know Bitcoin is downtrending. So it's like stack cash in bear markets, stack Bitcoin in bull markets. But for me right now, I think ETH is probably like your core. Like if Solana's not outperforming ETH, then something's wrong with my thesis. That's like your base, I think, that everybody should have. You should be trying, if you're not outperforming ETH, you should just be holding Ethereum.
Like in terms of how macroeconomic conditions will impact like shitcoin markets, on that note, like, to be clear, what I'm looking for is like a panic moment, you know? So like I'm not looking for local fluctuations or weakness. I'm looking for a fucking crash, dude. Like, you know, fucking market mayhem on all the news stations for a week, you know? That's kind of what that's when I want to enter. I will say this though. I went scanning yesterday. Most of these altcoins are by their lows. Like they are low. I looked at so many and set alerts on so many because they're just near it. Like Aptos is getting there. ARB is clearly getting there. Audio, like Bonk, CFX, CRV, CVX, like all of the, pretty much all of the ones that rallied at the beginning of the year are getting back down to their lows, except for like OP and like Lido and Render and shit. So the buying opportunity on some of these might be coming in, or we might have a scenario where like last year, you remember when like the mayhem on altcoins sort of ran out of steam, like majors were still hitting lower, but some of these would just reach their bottoms and they just weren't going anywhere. So like all of the shorts that you could get were on the majors. They weren't on some of these like low lake shit coins. And I think, yeah, exactly. Like I think we're reaching that point on some of these tickers where like, even with a market-wide panic, they don't have that much further to fall, you know.
I mean, the bottom line is, you look at all these charts I've pulled up today. Like, we are sitting in a depressed market. I mean, there's alts that are flying. There's some low time frame stuff. You know, optimism, as you mentioned, has come up pretty nicely after its dip. But like on the high time frames, this is, I mean, Link probably the best example. It's just a depression market. These are accumulation troughs if you believe in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years. Like if this is a generational asset class that's coming up, there's a very good chance in that scenario that we look back at all this and it's like, damn, I wish I bought more.
It's like stuff is down 90%. Like if you think crypto's going to be around in 2-3 years, there's like you haven't got to be buying now. I think like the hardest part for people with the recession backdrop is trying to guess when the black swan scenario is going to happen, because we've seen so many black swan scenarios happen in the past couple of years that people are just like conditioned to expect that to happen again. They're just like, oh, I'm going to buy the black swan whenever it happens. But it's usually not that easy. It's like kind of hard to do something like that. So like if a black swan doesn't come, then you also have to have a base case for when you want to buy it if that's not the case.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the best time I ever did that, like actual just kind of blindly DCAing, was that mid 2021, the summer 2021. This isn't a very good soul chart because it doesn't show up before, and we were on stream, I think July 2021, just kind of like coming out of that May crash. And it was like, you know what? I'm just going to load up on Solana names because I was just putting my foot out there. I'm like, I'm just like, fuck it. And it's really hard to time it. It's also really hard to deploy in those black swans, March 2020. I don't care who you are. That was a scary moment.
That was terrifying.
Bitcoin.
I bought everything. You know, that day I bought Apple, Tesla, Google, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Like that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So in an event like that, if you know what you're doing and you really have a plan and you're prepared for it, you have cash, it's going to be a little easier to deploy. It's still not easy. Actually, I gave notice at my job the week before that happened because I was like, I'm going to go full time. And then I went in the next day. I was like, maybe recant that. I'm going to stick around. I ended up going full time anyways, but I like pulled that application back for a few months just in case because COVID was all fucked up and scary. But so I'm like 50% cash now. Also, semi wishing I can get something like that. I'm not convinced I will, but you never are, right?
Dude, Phantom is like, I remember Trader XO saying it would hit 20 cents like maybe 3 months ago, and people were like, "That's crazy," and it's there. And it's only a very small amount to the lows. Yeah, dude. Like,
yeah. I just saw a Phantom chart yesterday for the first time, and somebody posted about it.
Yeah, it's like some of these things are getting to investable levels a lot quicker than others. Has anyone mentioned the weekly bear div on BTC?
We don't talk about that.
Yeah,
it is there, man.
I have a question.
It looks a lot like the top of last cycle.
What's up?
I have a question for you. Why would you, at any point in time, hold Bitcoin from a tradable perspective? I mean, I know
Bitcoin?
from a long-term perspective, I understand the thesis, but from a trading Bitcoin, I mean, what's the best that you think we can do on Bitcoin over even the long term? From the lows, from 15,000, do you think we break that all-time high at some point in time in the next bull? I mean, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I do think we break all-time high. I mean, I've kind of been saying I think Bitcoin and ETH are probably capped around 100K, 10K. Like, I don't think they're really going to go that much higher than that. But there are times when altcoins get extremely stressed, like when the entire altcoin market has rallied super hard and Bitcoin hasn't moved yet. And like that's when I typically look to get positioned in Bitcoin. I do think there's going to be a period when Bitcoin breaks this like 32K level, whether it be ETF driven or whatever else. And for like a couple of weeks, I think Bitcoin's going to outperform. Like one of my better trades last cycle was being long Bitcoin in Q4 20. And a lot of people don't really remember this period, but it was right after DeFi summer. Like Aave and everything had done like whatever crazy 100Xs. And those pairs were down like 70, 80% in Q4 2020, while Bitcoin went up from like 9K to like
Yeah.
40K.
Yeah.
So like there's situations like that sometimes where you want to time like the altcoin back to Bitcoin rotation. But I agree generally, if you're looking just for long term, what you want to hold, you're probably better off holding altcoins if you think a cycle is going to happen. The hard part is just picking which altcoins.
Just in terms of the current scenario, and I think opportunities in inverted commas, I think there's a number of them. I agree with you, Z, that there is a lot of upside out there, but it's not straightforward. This is the interesting thing about it from my perspective, is that it's really not straightforward. There's hidden gems, there's hidden opportunity, but you've got to work really hard, and you've got to be speaking to the right people, and you've got to be paying attention. I think the Solana ecosystem is definitely one of those. I think we've seen some really cool stuff come out. Obviously Hxro has been putting a lot of effort into their network and obviously incubating a whole lot of projects. I think those are going to do really well. And I think that if you're willing to really get stuck in, there's some really cool projects that are coming onto the scene that I think from a medium to long-term perspective will really offer opportunity that will put you from 100 to 1,000x brackets. And I think that's where the worthy and hard work comes into play during this time. That cliche, builders are going to build, and in bear markets, people are going to build. Well, I think that part of that building is finding those gems, getting some conviction, placing some bets. And I think if you play it right, I think, listen, ETH and Bitcoin are great fundamentals, and I think there's a couple of majors as well, as you mentioned, but I think the real money is going to be made on those gems and those high conviction players going forward.
I agree.
It always is when you look back, the guys who made it in the last cycle, it's rarely from like, hey, I held Bitcoin and I went from 6K, 4K to 65. Like, it is in those rotations. And so it's just really, it really is a personal thing. It's like, if you have a 9-to-5 job, 2 kids, you're probably not going to be optimized to play in the weeds and get into those rotations as hard. So you really got to nail your fundamentals and nail like, okay, here's the things I'm going to accumulate through this trough, and I'm going to just hold them. If you want to play like the spicy hot potato game, like it's challenging. I have my doubts in my ability to do that through this next 2 years, having now 3 babies. So I am really looking into these fundamentals, trying to position myself, get into some cash flow assets, and just maybe sell halves and doubles early and reload cars through the next dip, that kind of stuff. But it really comes down to personal, like how your life is set up.
I think if you are in a situation where you are juggling those challenges and those life lessons, the best thing to do is to make sure that your network is a sound network.
Yes.
And then also to listen to the right people. Like there's a lot of really good people out there that know their shit. There's not many, but there are, and you got to find them. And whether they are, good echo chambers or soundboards on Twitter, dare I say it, because I think there are a couple of really good accounts out there, or even just a network of individuals that you trust and that know their stuff and are in the weeds. I think that's where, I think this is a very selfish game, but at the same time, you need to think about, how do I make it unselfish? You got to give some, and then you'll get some back. And if you play that game right as well, I think you can do really well. And then you can still raise your kids. You can still do your 100Xs. But that's another skill set altogether.
To your point, Jedi, like I was going through my taxes, and like during last bull, like my biggest play outside of like maybe Wonderland was Pocket. And I first heard about Pocket because the Alchemist coin net, like Discord was talking about it. Alchemist runs Copper Launch, and the word in that Discord was that Pocket, like W Pocket, was coming to Copper Launch. And I was like, what the fuck is Pocket? And I've realized that you could only get it OTC.
Did you fucking short it or what?
No, I bought
I was going to say, this chart looks
terrible.
No. Okay, that's the listing chart.
Yeah.
Okay.
The OTC was way lower. I know exactly.
The OTC was insane. And there was like, there was this OTC desk called Thunderhead that made it really easy to acquire. And then the staking for Pocket nodes, like I set up like, I think I had like 20 Pocket nodes at one point, with like 1,500 Pocket in each. And And yeah, like I was just buying up like crazy, and it was all because of Alchemist Discord. And the reason I was on Alchemist Discord, to your other point, Jedi, was friggin' Chico Crypto. I was like watching a YouTube video, and he was talking about Alchemist, and I was interested in it because of Flashbots. And so I ended up there, and that's how I ended up in like one of the best trades of 2021 for me.
Dude, one of the best trades I had was fucking Z talking about fucking kingdoms, dude, and it was like 50 cents or something stupid like that, and I sold that one at the top. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing.
So it is
correct
true
me if I'm
that,
wrong,
like,
but I think the OTC Pocket Talk started heating up around 5, 10, 20
Yes,
cents.
it did.
I'll look for my first mention of Pocket in the pit,
and then it came off at like, you know, it launched at like 270. So yeah, that was a sick trade.
Yeah,
I passed on those OTCs, and then I got excited around 70 cents, and I was like, nah, I missed it. And yeah, I missed it. But
there's very few places out there where there is a constant stream of really reliable plays, whether they complete high risk shitcoin plays, because that's another narrative as well. You can do really well if you know how to play that game. I mean, I'm definitely not advising anyone to play that game, because it's fracking dangerous. You will get burned. But if you know how to play it, you can make life-changing money like in a very short space of time. But at the end of the day, you literally are playing with drums of gasoline and a lot of fire around you.
I think you either need like a good amount of asymmetric information, or you need to learn to buy blood.
That's what I tell people. I tell people to play like the on-chain stuff with a like small percentage of their report. That's like, I'm pretty consistent with that, because even if you are like, if you're early to some of this stuff, the multiples you're gonna hit will make up for a lot of the stuff that you miss on, and it doesn't even have to be large size. So it's different from on-chain. I mean, it's different from centralized exchange coins, where like you may need to buy in size to make some good money off multiples. But if you're hitting 100x, you don't need to put that much of your portfolio into it.
And they move, like, that's the thing with the sex coins, they move so hard with Bitcoin and ETH, right? That correlated, you know, that Friday night where everything dumped 20%, what was it, a couple months ago, and that's what put in the low for Solana. Like, you know, the thing I like about on-chain is it's less correlated in that sense, right? This dump here, it was a perfect 20% across the board for basically everything that traded on a centralized exchange. And everyone was like, oh, it's the market makers going offline in the US and whatever. Meanwhile, one example I have, because I have a bag of it, and it's like the only thing green this week is Hxro. There's just like a little LSDFi play. But look at this. This does not give a shit about what's going on with Bitcoin, what's going on with anything else. I mean, it may come down in a few days. It's been pretty uncorrelated, but that's what comes to mind when you talk about that, like that, the uncorrelated nature of these on-chain coins that just don't trade against anything else anywhere else.
Right.
Z, what are you looking at from a Solana perspective? Are there any gems out there that you've got your eye on that you think are going to pop off? You're very welcome to pump your bags. I'm ready to buy, bro. Let's go.
Finger on the trigger.
And because you don't work for them, you're allowed to say hero. You're allowed to say hero as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, am I allowed to say hero on the stream? I've been looking at hero. Yeah, hero's gonna go in. I think like some of the attention that the Gamify narrative has gotten with like Rollbit, I think that's gonna drip over to hero, because hero is, as you guys obviously know, like the decentralized liquidity layer for also not just games and gambling, but also like perps, dexes, and a ton of the other stuff. I think one of the projects that's gotten a good amount of attention is like YOLO NOLO. So they recently just launched, but it's like a Discord bot similar to Unibot, and like gonna do everything with like the perp trading, buying tokens on Solana. And I just think like once people realize that there's good teams like building on Solana that have been around for a while, Hero's one of the ones that will get hit with like a bid. But what else? Also looking at what else am I looking at? I was just talking about this the other day. Oh, HNT, I think is an interesting one. We kind of talked about it a bit earlier. Kind of connected to the real world assets, like decentralized physical infrastructure plays. And I think it's fallen off of people's radar after the transition from their own Helium blockchain to Solana. But like one of the stronger teams, I know like it's very depressed price wise. I think it topped around 30 something, and now it's trading at like $1.80. And it's pretty much flat on the year. If you pull up the chart, I think it's kind of like coming off the lows. So I do
What
think
some
if
of these that are like that don't have tokens yet, but it sounds like Jupiter, like Meteora, things like that. That obviously Jupiter's become a key primitive in the Solana ecosystem. Like, what's your thoughts on plays like that?
Yeah, so Solana DeFi, I think last time I was on, I was kind of talking about Solana DeFi. And I've been talking about it for a few months now. But to me, the UX experience with all of the borrow-lend protocols, like the PERT protocols, the DEXs, the DEX aggregators, are much better on Solana comparatively to another blockchains, just because of how much cheaper it is and how fast it is. But a lot of these newer teams don't have tokens. So recently, you've seen teams like MarginFi launch their points program, which kind of incentivizes users to deposit into their platform. And I want to say they've gone from around 5 mil to around 30 mil TVL, and that's only in a few weeks. So that's like probably one of the bigger winners.
Is most of that coming from like the UXD, UXP folding, like looping? Things like that are,
yeah. I think people are getting like close to 10% on UXP. But
bad.
then also also just like people were staking Solana and didn't have it in these borrow-lend protocols. So Solana has a very low percentage of the SOL staked in the TVL, DeFi TVL. And that's shifting slowly, but that's going to be a big driver for Solana's TVL just generally, because it's around 3% of the stake SOL in these protocols, whereas ETH is around 60%. So if you just look at that difference, you can kind of see why the SOL TVL is so low. Other teams like Cypher, I think, is also doing a points program. They're like PerpDex. And then I think Zeta is also doing some similar competition. But
yeah, we haven't seen any juicy airdrops over there.
Not yet.
Which really kicked off with like things on ETH like Uniswap and then 1inch, where it was like, hey, if you just used our shit over the last year passively, you didn't even know it. Now there's an airdrop coming, and it's turned into this whole industry of Sybil attacking and farming airdrops. But to this point, we haven't seen anything on Solana. I'd be curious to know if a big project over there does that, and then the others follow suit, and all of a sudden, these early Solana 2.0 DeFi users, are coming out swinging with bags.
It's going to be sick, I think. So DeFi Summer 2020, you saw that happen on ETH, and that was the emergence of all the new people who were using these protocols on Ethereum. Benefited really well because they all got their tokens early. And then on Solana right now, I think you have a core group of probably around 5,000, maybe less users on the chain that are active in all of these protocols. But there's so much more people doing stuff with NFTs or just like staking SOL and not being active in DeFi that they're really missing out on a lot of alpha by not doing that.
Yeah, it makes me want to look at, like, I've heard about MarginFi probably 20 times in the last 2 months, and I have not clicked through to their site once. Like, I've just got to start playing a bit, connecting wallets, doing some swaps. Like, I'm not going to farm it, but it'd be nice to at least get my base wallets involved. Like, it's a no-brainer, I think, to just take a look there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aren't airdrops also like a safe way to distribute in the eyes of the SEC in light of what's played out with XRP?
I hope so.
None of us are lawyers.
I think it is. I mean, I know a couple of protocols
I have no idea.
No, I think so. I think it's
you're right. All the rulings thus far have been kind of hands off on complete airdrop distributions. But what, like, if you're airdropping to participants and then you also have an investor allocation and a team allocation, that kind of calls into question, like, well, how democratized is this airdrop, given that you decided to award a bunch of it to yourself? But there's not regulatory clarity, but insofar as we have any regulatory inclination, like, yeah, airdrops are kind of fair game.
Dude, just ask Adam Cochran. He seems to know.
He'll tell you. It always makes me feel bad thinking about Messi. I know, for one, had a big slug of DYDX airdrop, just like stripped away. All the US guys basically were told, like, oh, sorry, you guys can't have this.
Cool stuff.
It's funny. Like, I wonder in retrospect if they could come back and be like, hey, guys, it's okay now.
JK.
Send us those airdrops.
Here you go.
US is friendly again.
Yeah.
That's pain. being protected from an airdrop by the U.S. government. That would suck. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's in the rear view.
Man, we just need some new money into the space, guy. Like we just need some
That's
new
what it is,
suckers.
man.
No.
It's like,
Not suckers. Oh my
you
god.
said-
Easy toast.
Look, man,
let's take
look.
it down a notch.
There's
Yo,
not
bro.
enough people to buy my bags if they
I-
get too heavy.
All
This is
I'm-
like,
all-
oh, go ahead.
All I'm saying is stuff is down 90%. So it's like we're not finding exit lick. We're getting people to buy the bottom. That's the way I
Right.
think about
Oh
it.
no. I'm not. Yeah.
Or what they'll do is like you'll buy the bottom because you're willing to accept the risk of because you're an experienced smart trader.
Mm.
And then as momentum starts to permeate through the system, you'll start transferring that risk off to people that want a momentum trade.
Yeah. No.
That's the other
100%.
way
Yeah.
It's probably the more PC way of saying what you just said.
What I'm saying is that like we're all here right now when it's boring, and we're all gonna pick some coins to fill up on while it's still boring. But after we fill up on those coins, the ultimate realization of that is that those momentum traders come in,
Yep.
and market orders come in. Like if you look at long-term CVD, you can tell this is a limit order dominant market. People are like very defensive, and the people who come away with the most money are people who are patient and are really good at trading levels. So it's like that's not the environment in which you can get a short-term favorable, max favorable exit from whatever you picked up at the lows. So I'm just saying that like I'm not in like I guess I'm transitioning from like, okay, we've been sideways, we're chopping around. That's great for perp trading if you know what you're doing. That's been fun. But now I'm transitioning into like spot bag mentality, looking for long-term stuff. And when you're in that mentality, it's like, all right, I'm looking for stuff that when this liquidity comes back in, I'm going to be in the right bag that moves first,
Yeah. And Beamish highlighted a really interesting capital outlay for us on the stream a month or so ago. Like he came on here and talked about, I've got 25% of my shit here that I'm just looking for long-term positions. And when they double, I'm going to sell half. And then if we, dip again, I'm going to reload them. Like that's this plan. And then, he went through kind of how he's tranched out his portfolio. And then he said, and look, 10%, I'm just like flipping levels, scalping, because that keeps me busy every day. And that's how I don't sell my core positions and mess around too much. And so point being like, you don't have to just do one thing. Right. I'm going to accumulate these long-term positions and miss every little mini rotation within it. If you want to play those rotations, pick a certain amount of your portfolio to do it. I've been dividing myself up this way so that I can kind of play all levels. But I agree with you mostly, especially after today's stream, looking at all these charts, thinking about all these longer term, fundamentally sound ideas. I want to make sure a good amount of my portfolio is positioned in these sometime through this year, probably through like September, January are really nice windows to be investing historically. And then, I want 10% sitting on Apex so I can like scalp it up and just get the little sweats.
Shouts to Apex. I'm on there right now.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Bybit hit me up the other day. They're like, hey, I noticed you're not trading. I'm like, yeah, I noticed you kicked me off. And they're like, how about this Palau ID? I'm like, nah, I can't do that because my corporate setup. But do you guys run Apex? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'll see you there.
I'll see you there. That's great.
Yeah, they're trying to recruit.
I will say that like the environment in which I did well over the last 6 months, it doesn't appear to be here anymore. Like on majors, like maybe it's just the way that I trade or my system, but like it's not working out. Like just a lot of stops at break even and shit like that. Like it's just not moving like it did. And so maybe that's why I'm sort of longing for like, all right, let's get the spot bags loaded. Let's find the lows. Let's get the liquidity back into the market. This is fucking boring.
And go play some golf.
Yeah.
Look, the one thing you can count on is that when prices move up, and I should always say if, but when prices move up, people will see that and they'll tell their friends and their friends will tell their friends and those friends will come in and they'll make a few bucks and they'll brag about it to their buddies. And this is how cycles happen. The human nature has not changed. And so the momentum trade should and will, I assume, come back someday. I'm not too worried about it. It's really just a matter of when and from what levels. And then it's about greed. Do I want to position now because I figure this is good enough, or do I want to try to scrape out 10, 20% more dip? And I think that's a really fine line between like stupid and smart. Like if I think Solana is going to be a couple $100 in a couple years, what do I care if it's 23 or 18 where I load?
Right.
Yeah.
I do care as a trader. I try to get it perfect, and that's actually counterproductive, to be honest.
Well, the laws of like multiplication dictate that it kind of does matter a lot.
It is important. I mean, getting in pip low on bald, Sunday night you were looking at a 3 million percenter.
Yeah.
Getting in pip number 18, you're looking at 200,000 percenter. Like it's a huge difference, but
big diff.
Unless you have the levels, the skills, the TA, like the strategy, the plan, it's probably best you just don't overthink it.
Yeah.
There is no plan when you're aping into shit coins, my brother.
High level plan, high level plan to ape.
High level plan, 100x then sol. Okay, gotcha.
I tell people all the time I bought Solana at like $1.50 in whatever it was, early 2021, late 2020, and probably took 10,000 plus trades in that bull market. I could have taken like 5 trades and been close to the same
right
return overall, like with way less
doing
effort.
the most.
my first crypto trade ever was buying 12 Bitcoins I didn't know jack shit about it at $219.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then it went up to like 900 and I sold it. I thought I was a fucking god because
you were for quite a while, actually.
What the hell? What goes 5x in like literally like 10 days?
It took a long time for your mortal status to return after that. So don't
oh yeah.
It's true though. Overtrading is the devil. I've done quite a bit of it, and this is the year to overtrade. I mean, this is the washing machine cycle. And if you look at the liquidity layers, I don't know the site. I actually hit up one of our analysts to try to give me the picture of it. What's that site? It shows you all like the thick stack liquidity, and that's really the game that's been played over the last 6 to 12 months. Is just like sweep. It's just a bullshit game to make you
like Crypto Watch or something like that.
Yeah, to make you poor. As things prepare for this, and I agree. Every time I get swept out of a trade, I'm like, I should just be accumulating shitcoin. So I'm getting close to that right now. In fact, after the stream, I'm going to take a real good look at it.
I mean, we talked about this last week, RT. Like, why not? Like, if you have some type of bead into something like Pepperdex or Flowmatic or these things that are coming on Hxro Network as an example, or like Nolo, like. Isn't your risk reward so much better there than, and I'm not even saying like going in like heavy, like just properly exposed to it.
Early.
And you just have your optionality is so great that like, your risk, your downside risk is fixed, but like your upside when the thing starts to go is like, it's way more massive than you can make scalping, 25 Bitcoin clips or 10 Bitcoin clips or 50 Bitcoin clips on Bybit against a bunch of bots.
Yeah, 100%. And that's it. Like just trading directional on Bitcoin has gotten as bad as Forex. I mean, it's just not a trader friendly environment. And
not for the last week. It's been
3 to 5 times a year with the network we've developed. You come across an asymmetric opportunity where somebody's like, yo, this thing just dropped. It hasn't moved yet. It's probably going to fucking move. And you just get that look. And it's like, that's really what I should be waiting for. Just sitting around doing nothing. And that's the hardest part as a trader for those moments. And then, 100% agree.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And it takes years to learn how to do that. Like it's so easy to say. It's like, I'm just going to wait until I get a good look at something early that nobody knows about yet. But it's like, you still just sit like I sit and I'm on my computer all day and I'm seeing charts and setups come in and I just want to take them and sitting in their hands is underrated for how hard that is.
Yeah.
Just a different mentality, right? Like,
like
trading what you're trading is a fucking widget. It's like, it's just literally a widget. It's got nothing. It shouldn't matter if you're trading,
not at all.
If you're trading with the idea that like you're more or less like taking a position to write out a thesis or write out something that you think you've gotten in front of that like the narrative hasn't hit the tape yet, like totally different mentality, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the cash flow side of thing too, like the incoming, which I think is, I personally think is becoming more and more. It's getting, especially this next run, is going to become more and more important. It's like just the whole value accrual idea and like the ability, like how much more staking. Also in the Solana ecosystem, I'm hoping it really happens too, where you opt into LP or stake, single-sided staking, things like that, and are your participation in the network is rewarding you that way. So
invest in the infrastructure that provides the tools that people are actually using, trading, speculating, gambling, and invest in the ones that give you a piece of that action. I mean, it's a really simple thesis. It's really what's driving all of my research right now, what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
On that front, Z, I want to ask you, do you have any kind of like income related, like passive stake type stuff? I know Cosmos does a lot of that. Some of it's dilutive, right? You're staking and you're receiving the token, but what are some of your plays in that field? Do you look at that stuff? Cash flow?
As far as like rev share cash flow stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, Unibuy has been one of the best like plays this year. It's like kind of the front end for this shitcoin gambling. And as like a holder of Unibuy, you get a portion of all the fees that the platform is like that the platform uses on the back end. So it's like that's probably the biggest one I would say. But that is like going to be a continuing trend because people are seeing how much these like casinos are making. So it's like, okay, if this is crypto, this is a decentralized finance infrastructure for where the people should be benefiting from all these ecosystems. It's like, okay, how are these teams going to incentivize us to use their platforms? And I think you kind of see that like in the Solana ecosystem, like with Hxro, all the apps going back into Hxro stakers. Another cool one is like Sol Casino, like with their SES staking, like the house gives them a benefit of the revenues. There's going to be a ton more trending in that direction, I think, because users are going to obviously go to the platform where they're benefiting the most from the activity.
Yeah, that's a paradigm shift that I'm here for, like moving away from like buy this token because I think it'll do well so I can sell it later to like buy this token because I think this protocol will generate revenue and I won't have to sell it later. From a cap gains perspective, it's really attractive as well. So all it takes is like an Axis Infinity of that sector. And like you mentioned, Unibot's really taking people's imagination right now. And then you just get this whole wave of copycats, but then on top of the copying, it's innovating on top. And I really want to see that kind of thing take off because that's kind of going back to core principles about blockchain and, decentralizing profit share essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ideas that I came here for anyways. I want to own it.
I'm just here for the innovation myself.
You're here for the tech, right?
Yeah, that's for the tech, the innovation, and the cash flow.
Here for that tech, baby.
The toast is here for the tech and to become a community member.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking to become involved. You guys need a Discord moderator. Is there a way that I can earn?
Yeah, I'd like to apply for Discord mod since I'm going to be here for the next 2 years.
You guys know nobody holds down a Discord like myself, all right? I'm keeping it appropriate. I'm keeping it on topic.
Bro, I need some Discord mods, bro.
Yeah, hit me up,
dude.
Me
too.
Hit me up.
Final thoughts as we wrap up today. Z, what do you got on your radar? I mean, we talked a lot about today, like coins, names, like this week, next week, catalysts. Final thoughts. What do you got?
As far as shitcoins, I'm looking at Base probably like this next week. So they just did their launch. Coinbase's L2. And it's like the newest thing on the block right now. And that generally will get a lot of attention in crypto when it's like, oh, this is shiny, this is new, this is where people are going to bridge to. Similar to how MarginFi did so well and will continue probably to do well in Solana DeFi, because people were like, oh, this is an outsized opportunity because money's not here yet. Like with Base launched their L2, it was basically only for developers. Like there was a convoluted way of getting your money over there. Then the bridge wasn't even live yet. But the bridge just went live today. And then I think they're going live with their mainnet, whatever, release alpha on the 9th. So I would definitely be watching over there if you're looking for trades to make in August. I think a lot of the attention is going to be on Base. They have a ton of users already, and they're going to push this, I think, pretty hard.
Yeah, what a weird launch that was. Am I the only one who just thought it was launched already? And then the news dropped today about like going live soon. I'm like, wait, didn't that already
I got the
Bro,
impression
it was launched for the degens. It wasn't launched for people.
It was for the
Okay.
DJ.
He
Yeah.
put some French on it. The Degens.
Yeah.
I'm a-
Coinbase
I'm
related
a
means
DJ.
polish, right? A DJ
Yeah,
becomes
bro.
a degen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
dude. It sounds so much better.
Bring it sophisticated. The sophisticated.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
good look,
so-
man. I haven't even touched, looked at base. I've got to start clicking through some links and find my way over there.
Yeah, we just got the thread.
Are we buying WorldCoin? What's up, guys?
I don't think so, bro.
Dude.
I don't think so. I bought some, and I was like, do I really want to hold this? I'm like, I don't know. I
want
think
it.
it's gonna get a hated pump at some point.
Yes.
For sure.
And it's also
Low
a
float.
sleeper AI coin. People don't know
Yeah.
that. I mean, people know, but like the founder of OpenAI is behind it, right?
Yep.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
founder
I don't
of
know.
OpenAI is
Look-
behind
look.
it, and it's because of the displacement AI will cause in the labor market that he's worried about UBI, and that's the whole reason he did the WorldCoin thing, is because he wants to implement UBI somehow. And I find all of those things together to be bullish. I don't know. Maybe I'm
You know,
alone.
I just- look
Aren't
at
crypto
the-
networks the alternative to UBI, in my opinion? Like
kind
like,
of
maybe
in
it's
a very
idealistic, like, at
PvP kind of
scale,
way.
You find some way you can bring your hammer and your fucking nails to a crypto network and earn money that way. Like
Yes,
that,
but it's not
I think
formalized.
that's the future of work, as much as like
Is being a
fucking-
Discord mod?
just sucking on the tit of like.
I'm set, baby.
Look, if I look at the FDV, it was 30, now it's at 23 billion, and I think about a 1% float. I just get the heebie-jeebies, like Maps vibes, and I'm just like not touching it.
But
Oh,
what
shit,
did Maps
But
do, dude?
It had a hated rally. It had its fun, but 2 years later, it's just washed, and that's like ICP, and that's like even Sui and Aptos are probably going to have a good run, but they come out low float, high FDV, and you just got to figure it's going to wash out over a period of 6 to 12 months.
Boys, I think Ansem's got to jump.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I gotta hop.
Final
made
thoughts
his
are
night for
in.
his next,
Hop protocol
Okay,
by
guys.
Hop protocol.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on, dude. Always love shooting the shit and picking your brain, and I love that we aligned on our HNT today because I'm already accumulating it. Look forward to having you back, man. Q4 is coming in hot. It's just hopefully going to be a lot more fun than Q3, which has been medium warm, lukewarm at best.
Yeah.
So yeah, great to have you guys.
Yeah.
Hell
Thanks
yeah.
for having me on, guys.
Thanks
We'll
for
all
coming
be back
on.
here
Sir.
next week.
soon.
Let's do it.
All right, take care.
Peace.
I'm up too nigga, that's best up to Chico. Got me frozen and so better leave on. I swap it for time and I fake it for me. Mo Jedi, base in 3 days, I'm on 3, I'm gone. Alamino Patron, Cappuccino Tuton, Alameda song. Stack it up, stack it up.